Have you ever wondered when aging truly begins? Not the day you notice gray hair, not the day you celebrate another birthday, but the moment your body quietly starts asking for help in ways it never did before. Perhaps it's a slightly slower step as you cross the road, a hand reaching for a wall or railing that once seemed unnecessary, a brief pause before standing from a chair. Small changes, subtle changes, the kind that arrive so gradually they often go unnoticed. Most people see these moments and assume they're simply part of getting older, an unavoidable consequence of time passing. But that assumption hides a fascinating truth, because what we often call aging is frequently something much more specific. It is the gradual weakening of two remarkable systems that once worked together almost flawlessly: the muscles that generate power and movement, and the nervous system that coordinates that power with precision and balance. When both systems remain strong, people often continue living active, independent lives well into their 70s, 80s, and beyond. But when both begin to decline, independence can slowly slip away long before any serious illness appears. And that brings us to a question worth exploring. Is physical decline really caused by aging itself? Or is something else happening beneath the surface? For generations, we've been taught that the body simply wears out with age, that slower movement, poorer balance, and reduced strength are inevitable. Yet modern research tells a far more hopeful story. Many of the problems commonly associated with aging are not caused by age alone. Instead, they stem from a gradual loss of muscle strength and an equally important decline in communication between the brain and the body. Think about it for a moment. Every movement you make depends on an extraordinary conversation taking place inside you. Your muscles send information to your brain. Your brain processes that information, then sends instructions back again. This conversation happens continuously, thousands of times every day. When the communication is clear and rapid, movement feels effortless. You walk, you turn, you recover your balance. You move confidently through the world without even thinking about it. But when those signals become weaker or slower, movement begins to change. Not because the body is broken, but because the system is no longer communicating as efficiently as it once did. And this is where the science becomes particularly interesting. Researchers who study mobility and healthy aging have observed the same pattern repeatedly. People who maintain strong lower body function tend to remain independent for much longer than those who do not. This isn't about athletic performance. It's not about achieving a perfect physique. It's about preserving the fundamental abilities that allow us to live life on our own terms. Walking, standing, climbing stairs, recovering from a stumble. These are not merely physical activities. They are biological survival skills. And when they begin to deteriorate, the effects extend far beyond mobility itself. Confidence begins to decline. Activity levels decrease. Metabolic health suffers. And overall resilience can weaken. Perhaps no story illustrates this better than the experience of Margaret. Margaret is 72 years old. For most of her life, she considered herself active and capable. She cooked for herself, managed her home, enjoyed daily walks, and never thought of herself as frail. But over time, something began to change. At first it was barely noticeable. She found herself avoiding stairs whenever possible. Then she started shortening her walks. Eventually, she became uncomfortable on uneven ground. The strange thing was that she wasn't experiencing significant pain. She simply didn't feel as steady as she once had. Then one afternoon, while moving around her kitchen, she stumbled. It wasn't a serious fall. Nothing was broken. No emergency followed. Yet the incident stayed with her. Because for the first time, she realized she no longer completely trusted her own movement. Medical evaluations found no major disease. Nothing obvious appeared to explain her growing uncertainty. Yet something important had clearly changed. What Margaret was experiencing wasn't simply a problem with her muscles, nor was it solely a problem with aging. The answer lay hidden within one of the most sophisticated systems in the human body. A communication network connecting her feet, muscles, spinal cord, and brain. At this very moment, specialized sensors throughout your body are gathering information. Tiny receptors embedded in your muscles, joints, tendons, and feet constantly monitor your position in space. They detect pressure, movement, direction, stability. Every fraction of a second, this information travels through the nervous system toward the brain. The brain rapidly analyzes the incoming data and sends instructions back. Shift your weight. Tighten this muscle. Adjust your posture. Correct your balance. The entire process occurs so quickly that you're rarely aware of it happening. Yet it is this invisible conversation that allows you to stand upright, walk smoothly, and recover when you lose your footing. Unfortunately, as we grow older, that conversation can begin to slow. Signals may lose speed. Messages may become less precise. It's a little like speaking on a phone connection with increasing delays. And in the world of movement, even small delays can have significant consequences. This is why aging cannot be understood as a muscle problem alone, nor can it be explained purely as a neurological issue. What we're really looking at is a challenge of system integration. The muscles, the nerves, the sensory receptors, and the brain, all working together as a single coordinated network. When muscles weaken, they generate less force and provide less sensory feedback. When nerves slow down, information takes longer to travel and process. When sensory systems become less accurate, the brain receives incomplete information about the body's position. Individually, these changes may seem minor. Together, they create a noticeable decline in stability and responsiveness. A stumble becomes harder to correct. A sudden shift in balance becomes more difficult to manage. And confidence begins to erode. To understand why this happens, we need to look more closely at the key drivers behind age-related decline. One of the most important is the gradual loss of muscle fibers. With inactivity and age, muscle tissue naturally becomes smaller and weaker. As force production decreases, everyday tasks demand greater effort. Standing up from a chair may no longer feel automatic. Climbing stairs may require conscious effort. Walking longer distances may become exhausting. But strength is only one part of the equation. The nervous system also changes over time. Signals traveling between the brain and muscles may move more slowly than they once did. Reaction times increase. And sometimes a fraction of a second is all that separates recovery from a fall. Then there are the feet. Often overlooked, yet absolutely essential. The feet function as sophisticated sensory platforms, continuously informing the brain about the surface beneath us. When this sensory information becomes less accurate, the brain is forced to make decisions using incomplete data. The result is reduced balance and greater uncertainty during movement. The core also plays a critical role. These deep, stabilizing muscles act as the body's central anchor. When they weaken, posture becomes less efficient. The body begins compensating in ways that reduce overall stability. And while these biological changes occur naturally, several modern lifestyle factors can accelerate the process. Long periods of sitting, poor protein intake, chronic stress, even certain medications that affect alertness and coordination. None of these factors cause immediate decline. Instead, they slowly chip away at the body's resilience over months and years. Which brings us to perhaps the most important insight of all. This is not simply a problem of the legs. And it isn't just a problem of the brain. It is a whole body communication system. Blood flow, nerve signaling, muscle activation, sensory feedback. Every component influences every other component. When one area weakens, the others compensate. But compensation can only continue for so long. The encouraging news is that this system remains remarkably adaptable. Even later in life, the body responds to challenge. Not extreme challenge. Not punishing exercise. But consistent, meaningful movement. Squats help restore strength and power. Step-ups improve functional mobility. Single leg standing retrains balance pathways. Walking encourages coordination between muscles and nerves. These activities do more than strengthen tissue. They teach the nervous system how to respond more effectively. And that process takes time. Improvement rarely happens overnight. The nervous system must repeatedly practice these movements to refine its communication pathways. Many people begin noticing improvements in stability within a matter of weeks. Strength gains often take longer. But better coordination frequently appears first. And perhaps that's the most hopeful message in all of this. What we often describe as aging is, in many cases, a decline in function rather than a permanent loss of potential. The body adapts to the demands placed upon it. And when those demands disappear, capacity gradually fades. But when movement returns, adaptation can return as well. Every walk, every squat, every balance exercise, every step, they all send the same message to the body. Stay active, stay responsive, stay capable. Because systems that continue to be used continue to improve. And systems that continue to improve help preserve something priceless: the freedom to move confidently through life. So if this story resonates with your own experience or reminds you of someone you care about, take a moment to reflect. What movement has quietly disappeared over the years? And what movement might still be waiting to return? Share your experience in the comments below, not simply as a story of aging, but as a reminder of what the human body remains capable of rebuilding.